Like they call it the doghouse.
This past weekend, Teofimo Lopez absolutely dominated Josh Taylor and became the new WBO super lightweight champion. And it was something that for a lot of people they didn't expect. They thought Teofimo was done. They thought his mind is all over the place. There was a interview with him and his dad where it looked like those two were butting heads and looking like it was all falling apart a bit. But Teofimo pulled out the bag and showed why he's the takeover and showed why, you know, he is one of the more exciting fighters in the sport. And, you know, if we go back a little bit, though, to a week or two ago, I did a video questioning whether Teofimo Lopez was going a little bit under the radar and whether he was underrated. And performances like this and Lomachenko and the knockouts he gets is why I made that video. Teofimo, when he is in full flight and when he is on it, is a nightmare for anyone, and I include Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, all of these guys who are slit boxers. Guys like Tank, who's a knockout artist himself, would struggle. Ryan Garcia, again, there's so many I could go through. He's just a nightmare for a lot of guys because he has the skill, the athleticism, the power, the speed. He has everything that you'd want, and he's a very good boxer. And he showed this in this fight, you know. I picked Teofimo to win. I thought he'd get the knockout round 9, and a few times when he looked like he had Taylor a little bit wobbled, but wasn't really able to really seize the initiative as much. But yeah, an excellent performance from Teofimo though, and this is why I say, you know, people need to sometimes not read too much into body language. I won't go too much on this because I do think there is a valid reason to think that Teofimo's mind looks a little bit all over the place. But ultimately, even if it doesn't matter to him. You know, once you're in there, once you're in the ring, some guys can block out all outside noise and just get it done, and that's what Teofimo did. And in the fight, you know, fight starts and it's quite back and forth. I think Taylor had some moments, landed some good left hands, but straight away from the pace of the fight, I could tell that neither one of these guys looked much better than the other, and you could kind of see it. But then as the fight went on, Teofimo was just a bit sharper, and Taylor, he was just standing, I don't know, in range with Teofimo, which never understood me. Almost like he wanted to go toe to toe, and I never understood that. I felt his best bet was to almost walk Teofimo onto something rather than try and catch him whilst the two are squaring off, and it was really strange. And that leaping left hook, I said the left hook would be key for Teofimo if he wanted the knockout in this one, and he was constantly throwing that leaping left hook at times, and I think he was very successful. The jab was nice from Teofimo as well. He was kind of just throwing the jab almost to set up the right hand, but I still think it was effective. He threw a lot of nice straight rights. He was in full flow. He was dancing at points in there. He looked like the old Teofimo, and like I say, you know, I think maybe Teofimo might be one of those guys who, a little bit like Tyson Fury, when you give him an average fighter or maybe a fighter who is at a certain level, he'll look bad, but against guys who are at the elite, he looks good. And some fighters do that. They kind of fight to the level of the opposition, and Teofimo looks to be one of those guys, and I think it was an excellent victory. I thought for Taylor, he looked very poor. I didn't think... A lot of people felt like the first four were quite close. I didn't. I thought Teofimo, if I look at my scorecards here, I had Teofimo winning this, you know, by some distance, and I think most people should, to be honest with you. The first four, I had Teofimo 3-1 up in the fight, up after the fourth, and altogether I had the rounds 117, 111 to Teofimo. I gave Taylor round 1, round 6, and round 10. I gave him 3 rounds. I didn't think he had done enough in any other rounds to really win them, and I think Teofimo was outworking him, and I felt like he was almost sleepwalking into a lost Taylor. And then eventually, as the fight wore on, Teofimo picked it up, and then Taylor just could not live with him. And this is why, you know, with Josh Taylor, he's not a bad fighter by any means. You don't become undisputed in your career if you're a bad fighter. But what he is, and I think this is the more important thing, what I'm saying, he's somebody who he doesn't have any intangibles that ever wowed me. When he won the battle against Ramirez, the undisputed, I thought it was a good win, but I never looked at him and thought they were talking about up there with pound for pound. They were talking about him fighting Terence Crawford, and He's not a bad fighter, like I said, but he's just nowhere near those guys. He's not on the level. If you look at pound for pound, he's not the level of an Usyk, of a Canelo, of a Terence Crawford, even an Errol Spence. The guys like Niue, I think, are even if about levels. I think these guys just have intangibles, physical qualities. They have that one thing that makes them much better. And I said before in the fight on my Twitter that Teofimo had that X factor that Taylor just did not have, and that's why, in the end, I went with Teofimo because I just felt like Taylor was a bit too basic. I did think it'd be close, a lot closer than it was. I thought Teo could win if he knocked him out, maybe, but I thought maybe it would be close and then Teo would catch him with a shot and then finish him off. I did not think that it would be as one-sided as it was. I thought maybe back and forth, maybe Taylor would have some rounds, Teo would have some rounds, and then Teo would catch him. A little bit like what happened with Richard Comey, even though he was running that fight, and then the whole fight just swings in his direction and he knocks him out. And credit to Teo, like I said, all the stuff that's happened with him, a lot of people like to doubt him, but like I said, I'm a fan of Teofimo. I've been a fan for a long time, and now you see why. When he's on it, people, like I said, they look at what a fighter says. They use the words to, almost judge the fighter on as a whole. They almost look at what they say and say, okay, he's talking a lot of rubbish, so that means he's a bad fighter. Just separate the two. That's what you've always got to do. You can look at someone like Floyd Mayweather. Maybe he talks a lot of trash, but he was elite in the ring. You look at guys like Mayorga, for example, who talked a lot and very entertaining, a very good fighter, solid, hard fighter, but not really a guy who's ever going to beat a De La Hoya, as we saw when they fought. And then you got some guys who are very nice and humble, like Manny Pacquiao, who people like, but he lost to Floyd. The personality and the fight are two different things, and I think people need to honestly differentiate the two. I think when I look at Teofimo, maybe he says some things that are a bit abrasive, like the stuff about the black fighters. He says a lot of stuff, about him being the greatest. Maybe he was a bit, some people say maybe delusional off the Kambosos fight. But that doesn't take away what he is as a fighter. He's an exceptional fighter and one of the pound for pound best, I think, if you look at everybody when they're at their best, I think he's up there. He has everything you would want as a fighter and has, at 25, very young. I know he said he's retired. I don't believe he is. I think he'll deal with his court case that he's got going on with his kid or children, but then I believe he'll be back, and I think he'll fight like a Prograis or Haney or somebody. The Haney fight is big now, but we'll have to see. I mean, if he vacates the belts, then we'll see. Then he may retire, and then he'll come back at 25. He's not retiring, but I think he may just take a bit of time out just to reevaluate, I guess, and deal with all the stuff outside the ring. Like I said, his mind is the biggest issue, but I said before, Teofimo Lopez, is he underrated? He's shown he is underrated, and he has now shown why everybody hyped him up and why he is the takeover and why he is so exciting. Because, we talk about undisputed Josh Taylor, somebody who was the guy at 140. Beat him, in my opinion, worse than what Jack Catterall did, and we'll get to that. But I think that Teo was just sharper, a lot better. Wasn't able to knock Taylor down like Catterall did, but he was just, guys who can pop the way Teofimo can. It's a problem for anybody. And yeah, I look forward to see what he does in this division. Should he stay, which I think he will, active. And if you look at Josh Taylor, against Jack Catterall, he lost the fight. They gave him the decision because he's in Scotland. And Catterall, the first opening rounds were quite close with Taylor and Catterall. A little bit like this, but the fight slid away from Taylor massively, and he would win a round in between. And I think that's sort of why they kind of tried to justify the decision. If you genuinely think Taylor won that fight against Catterall, I genuinely question a lot of how you score boxing, but ultimately it was what it was. I think it's one of the worst robbery decisions ever, and for that reason, I don't have nothing against Josh Taylor, but it's hard not to at least feel some sort of justice here, because you knew even in New York they weren't going to give him the decision because Teo's the hometown fighter, and even then he didn't at one point win the fight or look like winning the fight. And I think that Taylor, a good fighter, but just not on the elite level in my opinion. Teofimo is a guy who could be at that elite level, and I think Taylor is a guy who I don't think will ever get there, but he's not far from it, if you know what I'm saying. I think you look at the elite boxers in all weight divisions. At 147, you got Terence Crawford, you got Errol Spence. To me, they're the two guys. At 135, I would say Shakur and Haney are the only two. Shakur and Tank even. Haney, I think I still need to see something more. Haney's not far, but he will get there, I think. But at the moment, I wouldn't say he's there. I think those two are Shakur and Tank Davis. I look at 140. I don't think there's any guys there. Teofimo's close. Same with Taylor. He's just below it, but I don't think they're there. And you look at the likes of the Charlos, Jamal Charlo, up there, undisputed. And I think you could probably say he's there. At 160 was Golovkin, but he's getting older. But he's still the guy. And then at 168, Canelo really still won. Benavidez is good, but whether he's there. And you could go for all the divisions. Heavyweight, I say Fury and Usyk are the only two. People don't like Fury because of what he's done, but you can't deny what he is, his achievements, and his skill in the ring. And yeah, I think that would be, and then Beterbiev and Bivol, I would say, are the only ones that are like heavyweight. So, like I said, there's a crop of elite fighters. I don't think at 140 there's any elite ones, and I just don't think Taylor is on that level of those guys I just mentioned. And again, I think Teofimo could be, and that's the difference between the two, which is why ultimately I think Teofimo, I always picked him in the fight. Again, I said I went back and forth a bit simply because I felt Teo's man was a bit gone, but ultimately I think, like I said, the X factor of Teo is why I picked him in the end. And I said he needs more respect, Teofimo. He's one of the best when he's on form. There aren't many fighters who can live with him when he's doing what he's doing, when he's in his rhythm. Talk about Lomachenko, a guy who's dominating everybody. People were saying that was going to be a good learning fight for Teo and he could come back. He went in there and bossed him for 6 rounds because Lomachenko was afraid of what Teo could do with his power. Last 6 was closer, but Teo then, in the 12th round, went out there and just put it on Lomachenko and won the fight because of it, in my opinion. I think there needs just to be more respect, I think, for Teofimo. And we all know the adage of put respect to the name, but Teofimo deserves it, and I think he shut a lot of people up. And there's going to be... The commentators were saying, and I know it's Andre Ward and Tim Bradley, I don't know what the main one is called, but we're saying there's going to be a lot of I told you so afterwards. And Teo told everybody that he would beat Josh Taylor. They've wanted that fight with Taylor, him and his dad, for a long time. And I always felt that there's something in that. And now you see why. You see why he walked in for so long, because he knew he could beat Taylor. And Taylor struggles against guys like Teo, guys like Cattrall, who can pop, who can move, and this is why I look at Ramirez. Isn't a guy who moves that much. And Taylor was doing a lot of dirty stuff as well in the fight, which is just how he fights. He I won't say he bends the rules, but he kind of goes right to the edge with them, And you remember with Ramirez, he thought that the referee broke it up, and he caught him right inside the exchange. And yeah, Taylor just does a lot of his stuff. Hit Teo low a few times, pushing his head down a lot of times. A lot of dirty tactics. I don't encourage it, but it's part of fighting, I guess, and you've got to try and live with it with some fighters like that. But yeah, Taylor for sure can come back, but I just don't see him beating Teofimo or guys who can just move. That's just, you got to keep him away from those type of guys. He needs to go up, I think, as well. That's another thing why I kind of went to Teo in the end as well. I don't know how Taylor is making the weight nowadays at 140. He was talking about going up in weight when he fought Cattrall, and I think now could be the good time to do it, because don't get twisted. I mean, Josh Taylor's not beating Errol Spence. I don't think he beats Crawford. He does not beat the likes of Boots, Ennis, Virgil Ortiz. I don't think it would be a good fight for him. So there's not really much I would look at in terms of welterweights. If this was maybe a couple of years back when Keith Thurman was there as the champion, and when Kell Brook was champion, you could have done something. But now with these guys, this is different now. And yeah, I don't know how he does at this weight, to be honest, at 147. But we'll see with Taylor. He's a good fighter, and he definitely has the ability on his day to be elite. But I just don't think he's there. I think he's a great fighter. He's done a lot of good, but I just don't think he's on the level where I can say he's pound for pound up there with the best. I never thought he was, even after Ramirez, when I never thought he was. I felt like hadn't have the speed, the athleticism, didn't have the power, wasn't particularly slick boxer. There was nothing there that I really could ever get behind Taylor. I think that's why I've never really, as good as he is, I never looked at him as one of the greats of the game, one of the best out there. But he'll come back for sure, though. I don't think the Teo fight's next. I think he needs to fight Cattrall next if he's going to stay at 140. I don't see any other fight for him. Prograis, a rematch is good, but I don't think many people want that fight. I think the Cattrall fight, maybe Cattrall will campaign for one of the world title belts, which he should do. Like I said, it was a terrible robbery the last time, so wouldn't begrudge him that, but I would like to see those two again. I think Cattrall needs that one back. But regardless, and for Taylor as well, it's a I think it's a bit of a blemish on his record, and he needs to get that one back. But an excellent fight from Teofimo Lopez. Like I said, I don't think he's retired. I think he will take a few months out, 7 months, 9 months, but then he'll come back and fight. And Takeover is well and truly still on board. It's not like what Adrian Broner, when he lost and it all went downhill, he has shown he has the character, the strength to come back up and build. He was excellent in this fight, flawless at times. An excellent performance from Teofimo Lopez. And it was not because Taylor was poor, it's because Teofimo inserted his will and showed how good he is. Underrated, like I said, one of the most underrated fighters of the game. Has so much going from Teofimo. And Teofimo Lopez is underrated and is one of the best in the game. And he's now the WBO super lightweight champion, 2-weight division champion now. Teofimo Lopez is doing a lot of good stuff. And if he could continue this, just don't get distracted. Don't do what he did against Kambosos and take your opponent lightly and try and take his head off. Just keep everything above board in a way. Just keep everything balanced, and I think he'll have a fantastic career. At so young, he is so good and so talented. So yeah, excited to see Teofimo next. And yeah, just my thoughts on Taylor Lopez. Teo's the guy, and Taylor can come back, but hey, Teo was just too much for him. And yeah, until next time.